Welcome, everybody, to our Awesomenicity Quick Collapse. We're very excited today to welcome Amber Ham, who is a passionate and experienced Ed Support Coordinator. She's going to join the American International School in Mozambique in August, and she's also the founder of Curating Ed, with a real passion to make international schools more inclusive. Welcome, Amber.
Hi, all. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
And Amber, we're excited to talk to you too. You have one big passion.
Executive function skills. Yeah, exactly. That is kind of my jiggity jam right now. This school year, we've had a speech language pathologist at our school that's been consulting on our campus, and it has really opened our eyes to what's going on in the inner workings of kids' brains and how to better understand how to support them.
Mm-hmm. And it's really, I mean, such a big word. And I know like some people may listen to this and be like, I don't even know what those skills are. So could you describe in short, like what are those executive functioning skills?
Sure. And I'm going to pull a Katie Novak and I'm going to use an analogy to kind of drive home what is executive function. So let's think of your brain as a super busy airport, right? You got planes that are taking off, planes that are coming in, and those planes essentially are like our thoughts, our emotions, tasks, all the information that's coming in, and they're constantly arriving and departing. And so who is in charge of those planes in those busy airports? The air traffic control, right? That is essentially your executive function. That is what is happening. So thinking about like the airport, so you have the air traffic control who's determining the flight path. Boom, that's planning and prioritization of your executive function. We have to clear planes for takeoff and we have to clear them for landing. So there we have our task initiation and our completion of tasks. Sometimes planes are coming in, there's turbulence, and they have to navigate that. And that's just like our executive function having to emotionally regulate what is going on. So it's important to think about these busy airports because you could have the best planes in the world, like a brilliant brain full of all sorts of ideas. But without strong executive function system directing all of that information, things can get pretty chaotic, disorganized. And executive function really helps us get ideas up off the ground and kind of plants them in and safely lands them for a proper functioning.
Mm-hmm. That's such a nice analogy. I think thinking about airports and planes, you know, I often think about like executive functioning skills as a COO of like an organization or like a CEO, kind of like the manager who manages everything. But the airport is such a great example. I wonder, Amber, you know, you talked about like, I know this idea of like tier one instruction, executive functioning skills. Like, can you think of like some small and powerful strategies that you have seen work in classrooms that really support students in developing those skills?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, this school year, I've really honed in on what to do and to help better be more strategic about how we support students, all students. And one of the most important things that I always want to come back to is understanding what executive function is and what it isn't. So the challenge might look like a child not starting work, even though they really know what to do. You have high achieving kids who you know that they know what to do, but they just can't seem to get that start. Students who might have difficulties being seated or following through on task or just simply forgetting things. These are not neurological delays or misbehavior. It's just that we haven't recognized yet what it is exactly that is impacting those students' ability to get up and get going. So I always want to kind of make that clear because that's helped teachers better to understand that he's not lazy. He just doesn't know where we need to go. So what sort of things can we do? And, you know, at the start of the school year, I was thinking about this of like, because one of my teachers asked me, like, what would you say is like the go-to start of the school year? This is what I need to be doing. And after like kind of like collaborating with a number of teachers who I worked really closely with this school year, we really came down to a couple of really impactful, easy to do strategies. So the first one is called the Gestalt script. And essentially this is students, when they take in information, many students can take in word by word. Other students take in more chunks. So the Gestalt script is great for kind of those learners who need information just in one big chunk that they essentially can memorize. And so, especially for kids who need more like multiple pieces broken down, teaching them the Gestalt script, super simple. You do, and I like to do sign language that goes along with it that I've kind of created on my own. And so I go first and then next, where I have it on my nose here, and then, and so, and I show them my tongue, then, because that's our TH sound, right? And then I do like a goalpost, which is lastly. And so I get my kids to memorize this script. Now, this shows up for helping them when they're reading. So I can just easily do this and they can tell me what happened first. Boom, it's already in their head. They've memorized it. In writing, one of our kids who we use the Gestalt script with, while he's writing, he gets like, he writes his first part, he writes his second part, and then suddenly he's just like stopped. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do next. And the teacher just simply did this, and he immediately knew, oh yeah, and he knew exactly what to do. So that was super helpful, and I did this really kind of annoying song to teach them to do it, because I always have a banana. And so, and it's part of like that really annoying banana song, but it sticks in your brain. So I used the banana song, so singing, to go ahead and drill home these really important words, because these words show up in their writing, they show up in their reading, they show up in conversations, they show up when we need them to do 4 steps in order to complete a task. And so that has been that's been a really impactful, something that I would tell teachers, let's get kids to memorize this script to make their day a little bit easier moving forward.
What is the banana song, Amber? Because I'm thinking of the thing on the
banana.
internet, which is like chicken, banana, banana. But I don't know if that's the banana song to you.
All right. So I have my banana, and their finger can be their banana. And so, and the first time I'm singing it, I like to elongate, especially to help with the language and the being able to anchor onto the language. So I do, first, you peel it, peel banana. Next, you chop it, chop banana. Then you eat banana. Lastly, you go banana.
I think, Emma, it's so interesting, right? Like when you talk about like breaking down tasks, because I think like we often give assignments, we're verbal, we talk a lot, then we tell kids like, here's what I want you to do. And it's like, blah, 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 blah. You get it, go off, right? But I know, like, I see a lot of teachers in our school using checklists, and that's what they do. They kind of like draw those checklists on their boards with little like boxes, and it's one word. It's often a picture, right? And the kids can literally go down and be like, okay, I did the first thing. And it starts as easy as like, get your book and a pencil, right? And like sit at a calm space. It's really breaking it down, but it helps those students to get organized and be like, okay, now what do I need to write? Write the date. And we're really breaking it down. And in some classes, it's broken down in a lot of little steps. And then, in other classes, bigger chunks. But I love seeing those checklists, because I feel like it's a really nice guide, like on your journey.
It definitely is. And it's a great way to help kids self-regulate. while they're doing, so it's not overwhelming. And I like to pair the Gestalt with the visual as well to just reinforce, especially if it's more challenging or complex information.
That's amazing. We had my son, we've done a lot of work with his executive functioning, and we had something similar where he just couldn't clean his room. And as a parent, it comes across like, why, like, you know, you're being defiant, you're not cleaning your room. But we figured out it was just so overwhelming, like where to start, what to do. So we had the same thing, like a little checklist, but we had it on magnets. And he'd order what he was going to do with his magnets. And it was amazing. He just worked through all the tasks, and it just took that cognitive kind of block away and got him started. So it's amazing, like, what as an adult or a teacher, you are looking at a child and you're thinking that they're, like you said earlier, that it's a behavior issue or it's this or that. And something so simple as having the list or those visual cues could really open up the learning for the child. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I wonder, Amber, you know, how do you help students become like aware of their own executive functioning skills and kind of like their strengths and their challenges? How can they take ownership on, like, you know, how am I going to develop this? Where am I in my journey?
You know, I mean, I'm straight up with my kids, even kids who are 5, 6 years old. We could have conversations. That is okay to talk about what are things that I'm really good at, and then what are things that are more challenging for me. And so I use a lot of reflexive questioning. So instead of me being the one directing the conversation, it's me more or less kind of like moderating my inner thinking. So what I am experiencing and feeling, and kind of like asking them, like, how do you feel about this? So like, I have one student right now, and she tends to self-distract herself. And so I had just like she was doing something, and I just was kind of chatting with her and like talking about like sometimes when, you know, people are walking by, it's really hard for me to pay attention. Do you ever experience anything like that? And then she started having this conversation, and then it got to the point where she could even tell me I self-distract. She's 6 years old, and she used that vocabulary to tell me I self-distract. And so now when we're in class together and she starts to kind of go back to these, you know, these actions and behaviors where she's self-distracting, I ask her, hey, what are you doing right now? And she looks up and she's like, self-distracting. And so it's more of just like asking them for what do they need. So a lot of kids with task initiation, where like you were saying, that it's hard for them to prioritize, to plan out what this cleaning my room is daunting. Where do I even begin? And so same thing with kids in the classroom. It's a writing activity, and they're just sat there and they're just kind of frozen. And so I ask, you know, what do you need right now? What is really hard for you right now? And I will also just kind of give them like a little sentence starter to help get them going. And then just being able to boom, to work out, that has really been helpful for kids to feel like they're in control and they can do the work.
And what do you find, Amber, is there like a common pattern of like when you say, what do you need? Like if you could give kind of like a common answer that you feel students begin to recognize, I need this. What is the thing they need?
What is the thing? Again, learner variability. So it very much depends on what the task is and who it is that I'm talking to. Sometimes they won't know what they need. So then I give them kind of a forced choice. All right, do you need to remember the mnemonic device to get you started? What is it that the teacher asked you to write about or to create? Other students, they will be able to tell me, I need to come up with a title, you know, so then that's where I can kind of scaffold that and help explain, all right, here's what we need to be thinking about. Here's where we need to go.
Mhm.
I also,
And I'm guessing that's
you know, I
something
think,
that kind of, the more you model it, the better they become at becoming aware of what they need.
and that's exactly what I was just going to say, that the modeling is imperative for all kids for executive function. We have to model exactly what it is that we're feeling or that they might be feeling or doing or needing to do. And so that's kind of like one of those things that, like, is it, what routine would I tell teachers is you have to be clear, you have to model, and you have to have structured routines. It reduces the cognitive load on students. It helps with the working memory so that they can actually attend to what it is that we want them to do. And it provides them a launching point.
And I think it's so nice, like thinking it's like a skill, right? And a skill is something you learn. I feel like, you know, you put effort in. It's like a whole process. It's like a journey. And I think as a student to know this, like, you know, it's challenging and that's okay. We're going to practice it. I'm going to show you. I'm modeling it. You practice. You make a mistake. We practice. But it's eventually something you can really nail, and then you boom, you have it. And I think it's nice to think about, like, it's not something we're born with. It's a skill we learn and develop.
Absolutely. And you know, I have a checklist for executive function that teachers oftentimes, when they come to me and they're like, I just don't know what to do, we sit down and we go through this executive function checklist, which kind of like looks across, there's like, let's say 8 to 12 specific executive function skills. And I kind of have put them all out with like short little examples for teachers to kind of identify with, and then they can identify. And what they end up seeing is, like all of us with learner variability, we're all really good at some components. And then there are other things that we need to continue to work on. And so, you know, you kind of asked about, like, how do you help regulate students? Well, I'm straight up with my students and I let them know, like, what I'm really good at and the areas that I'm growing in. And I think it's important for teachers to be vulnerable with their students and to really have those conversations, because it demonstrates that it's all a work in progress, you know, and it comes back to that growth mindset and the desire to just want to do and be better. And so it's, that checklist has been really important for starting conversations and tailoring interventions, tailoring best practices for the tier 1 classroom, as well as for any kids in tier 2 and tier 3, for us to know exactly what we need to focus on.
That's awesome. Thanks. So I wonder, Amber, you know, if you, I mean, there are so many different strategies and routines out there, but if you would pick one classroom routines that really helps with executive functioning skills, and you're like, you know, that one is really super helpful, which one would you pick?
Have a classroom routine. So, and however that shows up in your context, in your classroom, with your personality, to have one. But to also be clear about what that routine is and what it looks like. And like I was saying, sorry, I got this bug flying around me. Modeling it, what it is that you want kids to be able to do, because we have to make our thinking and what we're doing, we have to make it very clear. And so we essentially need to paint pictures of what it is that we want kids to be able to learn, because there's no other way. They can't read our brains, right? They can't read what they think we want them to do. And like we were saying, some kids are really good at certain aspects while others need to continue to grow. And so I think this is what comes up with teachers and allowing them their creative agency, while at the same time making sure that we're clear on what it is that we want from them.
Emma, it's interesting. I know we had like a professional development at the beginning of the year, and one of the trainers, she came and she introduced this one strategy that every teacher used in the classroom. And it was this idea of like, get ready, do, and done. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's super cool, right? Because get ready kind of lists of all the tools the kids need to get ready. And then here's what you need to do. It lists the steps. And then it shows like, and if you're done, this is what your final project looks like. And I see this in like the younger grades, right? Like grade 1 loves it, but even in the older grades, and it just really helps students. It helps all students. So it's not just like, I'm going to make this just for a group of students, but I'm going to put this on the board for everybody. And if you need it, great. And if you already remember it, then ignore it. But I really love that strategy. I think it's a really simple one to use in the classrooms.
Yeah, and that was a strategy as well that we started using this school year. And I used it with a classroom of grade 2s, and I, teaching them how to use this tool was super fun. And you could see the kids who really valued every time it showed up on the board. It was almost like this sense of relief because we talk a lot. And by putting all of it on the board, easy for every child to know what the expectation is, it seemed to be a relief to a lot of our learners who just need that visual. And actually, we started in grade 5 as well, and one of our teachers, she really latched onto it and absolutely used it regularly. And then I really like this because this is where what the area of continued support is for a child is she then had the students create their own get ready to be done. And the students who struggled with that, you could see that maybe it was the done part or the get ready part or the do part. And then we could go in and we could target those skills even deeper. So now we know that, okay, so the whole thing is kind of daunting. So let's kind of rewind. Here's, what you want to see. How are you going to get there? And so it's almost, then you can see the planning and the prioritization and skill that needs to be supported and developed further. So it was a really fun, way to see how we can take a wonderful strategy and make it even more impactful.
And it goes
I think
back
it's fascinating because I feel like a lot of this can be applied to adult life. Like we're teaching kids to be successful, but so my sisters run a business and they talk about things going on. And I feel like a lot of advice that I give them is like teacher advice for kids, but then it's so applicable to adults. And I feel like just, breaking things down into steps like that, it just seems very applicable to adults as well as children.
And I think we think often of Amber, you talked a lot about tasks, right? Like breaking down big tasks, assignments. But they also, executive functioning skills also come into play when we think of emotional regulation and behavior. And I just wonder, what kind of strategies do you use for this? Does something come into your mind when you think emotions and behavior regulation?
Sure. And that kind of comes especially with writing. That seems to be a tough one for a lot of kids because it takes a lot of stamina and a lot of planning. And so the modeling component really comes in on that one and providing students with the exact strategy for the type of writing that they're focusing on. But I model while I'm writing. I might stop and be like, this is so hard. I just don't even know what to say. Oh, what can I think about? Oh, I can think about my mnemonic device. Okay, so now I'm at the D, and that means detail. Okay, what was one of my details? Oh, let me go back and look at my graphic organizer. Oh yeah, that was my detail. That bananas are the best fruit there is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write.
Really
bananas
emphasizing
are-
the bananas, Amber.
I know, I love a banana. But it helps to do a lot of modeling, you guys, because kids need to know what's going on in my brain and that I'm a human and that I too, it is hard. And so again, we just kind of come back to how am I going to regulate myself while I'm doing something that is hard? And there's no better way to teach kids than to actually help them experience it alongside with you.
But Amber, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This was fun. Great conversation.
Awesome.
Thanks
Thank
so
you
much,
so
Amber.
much. Yeah, it was really nice seeing you. Thank you so much, Amber, for joining our quick collapse here as Awesomeicity.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Bye.